My Friendly Neighborhood, at first glance, could very well fit in that same role of the Mimi children, but not children-like style in the horror games we've seen over the past decade. But the game certainly has some interesting heart and earnest to it, with just a few loose threads here and there. We play as Gordon, a surly repairman who's been called in to investigate the My Friendly Neighborhood studio lot. In this universe, the puppets have become bigger than Muppets and Sesame Street combined. But the place has fallen on hard times, and when he arrives, he finds the puppets have gone a little stir crazy, or should I say, hug crazy. And in order to fix things, he will have to solve puzzles and survive some, well, not so horrific experiences. The game itself feels like a mix between Resident Evil and, again, a Sesame Street Muppet style game. The puppets here are always talking and very chattery here, so you're not going to have to worry about jump scares or things along those lines. Instead, you'll have to explore the lot's 4 major areas, looking for items, resources, MacGuffins, and more. All your weapons kind of fit this in-universe, again, of a child's-like entertainment, as all your guns and so on are about shooting letters at people. There's no machine guns, assault rifles, or anything sharp in this universe. And I really do love the aesthetic of My Friendly Neighborhood. See, while a lot of indie horror games have used, again, like the child or children's entertainment as kind of like a veneer for the then disturbing horror, stuff like, I think it was like Amanda the Adventurer, Five Nights at Freddy's, of course, and many others. Here, everything is kept, again, being more on the childlike atmosphere. No one is going to be ripping Gordon apart. There's no blood, guts, gore, or swearing of any kind. But the game still manages to evoke the Resident Evil kind of like first or maybe second generation survival horror vibes. The game itself, as you can see, is played in first person, but aiming is kind of not as important. This is not a twitch-based shooter. I only believe there is locational-based damage. Instead, the hook here is that each one of the areas will have the puppets that you'll have to figure out how to get around and how to deal with however you see fit. Because they're puppets, it means that you technically can't kill them. So you can shoot them with your weapons and knock them down, but they will get back up when you leave and enter a new room. In order to permanently take them out, you'll have to duct tape them down. And this again is a very clear homage to that of the Crimson Heads from Resident Evil 1. Although the puppets here don't become super aggro or anything like that. Each area, again, will have puzzles for you to explore, and the puzzles themselves, I would say they're on the moderate side, with exception to the game's kind of secret optional puzzles, which if you can complete them, you unlock additional cheats, as well as the game's ultimate weapon, a Gatling-inspired letter gun that if you somehow run out of ammo, then you may be a little too aggressive for this kind of game. The gameplay itself, again, feels really nice to play. The aesthetics are solid. With all that said, however, I do have a few issues with the general gameplay. This is one of those titles where everything is kind of built into the universe itself, so nothing is like highlighting or standing out, and that means it can be very easy to miss anything from minor items to important clues or major items that you need to solve puzzles. I completely lost track of a key that I needed, which was the exact same key I misplaced when I first played the demo of this game, which I completely forgot its location too. And maybe having like a highlighter or something along those lines would have helped. The game does show you on the map where there are items in specific environments, but it doesn't give you any distinguish if it's a critical item or just a clip or additional health. The enemy designs are, I think, kept explicitly on the basic side. Again, at most, a puppet is just going to chase you in that general room. If you're hoping for any kind of advanced challenge in My Friendly Neighborhood along those lines, you're not necessarily going to find that here. The game features 2 boss battles, and the bosses feel more like letter sponges than anything else. If you have enough ammo, you'll be able to deal with them. If you don't, then you're kind of going to be in trouble. The items that you'll find in the world are hand-placed. You'll get different items in different places on the higher difficulties, but I don't believe anything is actually randomly shuffled on playthrough to playthrough. And the game itself is clearly set up to have some replayability with the different difficulty settings, going from being very easy to I hope you are really good at dodging kind of difficulty. But with that said, the game itself is on the shorter side. I would say maybe 4 hours or so on your first playthrough if you're kind of exploring for everything, and you'll certainly be able to do that faster once you know where all the items are. Now, the game does do one thing that I haven't seen before in a survival horror game that I do enjoy, and that is in the role of kind of its major enemies. Each area has kind of one super threat that will track you or be more annoying than anything else in that area. By looking around and finding specific items and solving their puzzle, you'll be able to befriend them, and this will kind of remove them as being a threat when you return to that area. It's a very nice way of having these enemies be an enlarged threat, but still providing you with a very wholesome way of dealing with them. And that's kind of like where My Friendly Neighborhood differs from a lot of the other horror games we've played. There is certainly no sense of disturbing behavior, nihilism, death, maiming, and all that in this game. It wears its children's entertainment inspirations on its sleeves. With that said, I do have one final issue with the story. I don't want to spoil things too much, but the ending of this game kind of explores more about what happened to the studio and what happened to the puppets themselves, and it feels like it's setting up for a very, I guess, larger discussion about children's entertainment, wholesomeness, and even just, the perils of capitalism and exploiting people. But it doesn't quite get over that line, and I feel like it ended maybe 5 to 10 minutes too soon. And you'll see what I mean if you play this game and get to the game's final area and final boss. This is a very solid game. Again, if you're hoping for a complete reinvention of survival horror, this game is not going to do it for you. But it feels like a very solid, again, like a weekend style game that really does nail its aesthetic and tone. And I hope we see more out of this kind of universe from the developer in the future. And I would like to thank the developer for providing me with a press key to check this one out, and as always, if you'd like me to play your game for a future review, please get in touch. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.